Hello and welcome. I'm Janzen, and I'm here inviting you to exist here with me today. We're talking about 3 instincts for connection. The instinct to connect through protection, provision, and recognition. So we all need that sense of being protected, and we all need that sense of being provided for, and we all need that sense of being acknowledged and recognized for who we are and valued. And those 3 basic instincts are what work to connect us to other humans. Today, we're going to talk about how they work together. It's not sort of a democratic thing where everybody gets an equal vote. These instincts work together in a kind of a dance where one person takes more of the lead and the other person leans. In an adult relationship, you want that to be passed back and forth. You don't want someone always in the lead and somebody else always leaning. You want it to be something that goes from one person to the other. But much like a dance, it is an instinctive thing. If you try and dance with somebody and you say, neither of us will lead, but we'll dance together, it's really, really hard. So try it sometime and just feel it out. Who is going to take the lead and how does that happen? It is without words. It's very interesting. But once one person takes the lead and seems to know what they're doing, the other person kind of relaxes. It's a sense of, oh, okay, I'm just going to follow along. So long as you trust and know the other person is leading with a kind of integrity that says, you matter. If they start to lead in a way that says, you don't matter to me, then the trust is gone. These instincts have been put in us to look to the good of the community. So in a relationship with one person, it's looking at the good of both of us. But in a family, it would be looking at, let's say you have 3 kids. It'd be looking at, well, what's the best thing for all of us together? And on a particular day, it might be harder to figure that out, what is best for each person. But the person who's making the decision is very aware of what each person needs and knows each individual. When you see that the leader is making decisions that are to the best of their ability for the benefit of everyone, you start to feel the connection come together and you start to see the trust that grows. You can even see this in a workplace. You know, if you have a boss who's out to get the best for themselves, you know that's not someone that you want to trust. We know that in governments, in countries where the leader has set out to do not what's best for the country, but what's best for their own benefit, maybe putting the money away for themselves. I think of a leader of a country I lived in at one time who sold off some of the rainforest and then sold off mining rights, and all that money came to him, and the rainforest actually got burnt down and caused a big problem. That's exactly what we call corruption, because that leader is not looking out for the benefit of others. He's looking out for the best for himself. And when that happens, nobody can rest in a sense of trust in that leadership. Another person that I think of is my dad. He was a pilot. As you walk toward the airplane, you could see that he took a posture. You could even see in the way he walked that as he walked toward that airplane, he took over. He was in command. And as you came into the airplane, there was a great sense of, wow, I can trust this guy. And I know it wasn't just me, and it wasn't just about me trusting my dad, because another person wrote a book and they put a chapter in about my dad. And that's exactly what they wrote about him, that his posture and his stance as he took that leadership role of commanding an airplane was very engaging. It made you want to trust him. You can get the opposite feeling when you drive with someone who's uncertain. That I don't know where I'm going. Is this the corner? Should I stop for this light? It turned yellow, or should I keep going? And there's no rest for the passengers in a car that has a driver who is uncertain. What we want is a leader who's making these decisions based on these 3 things. What's safe for everybody? What provides for everybody? What does everybody need? And then we will trust and we will rest. Another place that you might see that uncertainty is if you go to somebody's house for a meal and they have a sense of uncertainty about what they've made for you. Oh, I made salmon. I hope that's okay. And halfway through the meal, oh my goodness, I forgot the salad in the fridge. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. And if the hostess behaves in a way, or the host in a way that's uncertain, and they have not projected that sense of, I'm here, I'm the leader of this meal, I've got everything, I'm going to provide for you. You feel restless in that home. You don't come and feel comfortable. You actually feel inside a little uncomfortable. What you want is a host or a hostess that comes to the door and says, as if this is their kingdom, welcome, hello, come in. I am going to take care of you. Whatever I do, it's going to be for your benefit. And you come into a home like that and you feel like, oh, I can breathe. And that's what we want in our relationships. We want them to have this harmony of passing back and forth the decision-making, not grabbing it for ourselves, and of the person who is making the decision, providing that place for the other person to lean and rest. Because in that place of leaning, that place of trust, that's where we get rejuvenated. And that's where our new ideas might come to us. Good things happen in that place. So it's really how it was meant to work. The other thing that comes out of that place is a sense of loyalty. When we know that a person is leading us well, we'll be loyal to them and we'll work together as a team. There's an amazing scene in Facing the Giants where the coach gets down in front of a guy who's doing some kind of an exercise, carrying somebody. He's blindfolded, somebody's on his back, and the coach gets right in his face and starts to say, keep going, keep going, keep going. And the guy crawls down the field much, much, much further than he thinks he's capable of. He does more than he's capable of. And it's because the coach believes in him, sees who he is, knows who he is, believes he's capable of more, but is on his side and is providing that encouragement and that strong leadership that says, you can do this. And that's what we want from the people that we're leading or the people that we're in relationship with. Maybe it's our children, maybe it's at work. We want them to know, hey, you can trust me. Got this for you. I'm on your side. One of the main pieces of human development and human well-being that requires this is that we need that trust. We need that place of safety. We need to know we can lean on someone in order to feel our emotional upheaval that comes when we're sad or when we're frustrated, when we face futility, or when we go into alarm. And those are the things that are the other side of those protection and provision. When they don't happen, we feel jolted by that. We feel the emotional response to that. And we need to know that we have a safe place to bring up those emotions and to process them. So it's really important to have some relationships where that person is able to take the lead. Now, if you feel those emotions as a child and you don't have a sense of safety, their instinct will come out to try and take the lead. And we all know, we've seen a household where the child is no longer leaning, they're no longer trusting, and they've taken over the decision-making. And it's kind of the same as when we look at a country leader and we say, well, that's corruption. They're doing that for themselves. We get the same feeling. It's not corruption, but we get the same feeling like something's wrong in this house. This child is making the decisions for this family. Children really aren't even ready for that. They're really not ready for that. And so when they start to take the lead and they start to make decisions, it's always going to be for their own benefit. They're not going to stop and think, well, what's the best for everybody? And you get this imbalance where trust and belonging don't flourish and grow. There are some cultures that actually do this kind of leadership better than other cultures. In the culture, the strong leader who looks out for others and is quite protective is applauded. I think of the legendary hospitality of the Bedouins, where they see someone coming across the desert and they know that it's life-giving, and they offer hospitality with incredible generosity. And it's part of their culture. It's important, and there's a sense of obligation. I must give this person protection. I must provide for them. And then there's this hospitality to their soul. Who are you? And where did you come from? And they're well known for this. There are other cultures, and if you're listening to this in English, there's a good chance that your culture is one of them, where these things have almost become our rights. I have the right to be protected. I have the right to provision. I have the right to be known. And when we venture into that, it becomes easier for us to turn our instincts into self-protective instincts. And really, that's not what we want. There's very little satisfaction that comes to us from self-protection because we're not getting the rest. We need those relationships where we can rest, where we can lean, to have our feelings, our vulnerable feelings of sadness, sometimes of alarm, so that we can continue to grow as a human being. But also, if we've lost that, we don't get the satisfaction from the events that we do engage in, or from the times when we offer this to other people. So it's a funny thing that we actually need to pass this back and forth, so that sometimes we're resting and we're able to process our emotions, but sometimes we're providing it to somebody else. And that sense of provision to somebody else, of creating that space for them, it should be very satisfying to us. It should fill us up with a sense of well-being. I've done something important. I've done something worthwhile with my life when I've made this place for somebody else. And we want to offer that with generosity. That instinct for recognition, for seeing another person, is very important for giving that person a sense of their value and their well-being. I came across a story not that long ago that really illustrates so many things. A young boy loved baseball. He played baseball, and he came from a home where his parents had difficult childhood. Nobody paid attention to his baseball. His dad certainly didn't come out to watch him. And after a while, he decided to try track and field. And he started to get some wins. And his dad actually was much more interested in track and field. His dad came out for some of his events. And then as he got better and better, his dad only would come when he was winning. So if there was a chance he was going to win something, his dad might show up. But if there was really no chance he was going to win, he could be sure that his dad wasn't going to be there. So you can imagine what that felt like to a son trying to connect with his dad, choosing a sport over his own wishes, and working hard to try and get his dad to be that kind of leader that would acknowledge him and provide for him, provide emotionally. What his dad should have been offering him was acknowledgement of who he was, not who he needed to be to please his dad. And his dad should have had a protective instinct that said, you know what, you're so valuable, I want to protect you in that, and I want to provide the support that you need for that. And in its absence, this young man, it trumped what he wanted to do to get this connection with his dad. But there was no rest in it. His dad's approval of the times that he was winning didn't give him the sense of satisfaction. He kept going after it and training harder and harder and harder. A young person not getting that sense of protection and acknowledgement and provision, you can predict that they'll go on to live their life in the shadow of that. He became a workaholic in his career. Not only that, he didn't have those instincts to give to his own children. His instincts had turned into, what do I need, rather than what do I need to give away? Because he had lacked that generosity, that invitation to exist and to be who he was. His whole vision of life was that he had to work for his own benefit or his own well-being, and that he didn't need to give that away to anybody else either. And the whole thing tumbles down. And you probably know somebody like that. You probably have somebody in your circle who's like that. And you know there's something off about that. Those instincts aren't quite working the way they're supposed to be working. And then if you meet a dad who comes home and plays with his kids and has fun and really acknowledges them for who they are, something inside of you says, yes, that's a good thing. The ideal place where you want to have received this is in your home. Your parents, the connection between a parent and a child is much stronger, even biologically, that this is the ideal place that you should have been offered this sense of a generous invitation to exist, who you are and how you are. And that should have been protected, and a provision should have come to you. But if you didn't have that in your home, it might have come to you through a teacher or a leader who saw you and acknowledged you. And that should give you a place where you inside just feel like, I'm okay here. If you can go back to that place and remember that, that's a gift that you want to hang on to. That's something that you want to have a feeling of, yes, I can rest here. And you want to revisit that and reignite that inside of yourself. But without that, when that's not working for you, there's a restlessness. It's the difference between being able to rest and sigh and relax into that, or a restlessness that you're always looking for something, always trying for something, and not being able to just be in the moment, enjoy the moment, have that presence to the joy that comes from being who you are. When Gordon Neufeld uses the phrase, the invitation to exist in my presence, that's what he's talking about. He's talking about our generosity of looking at someone and saying, who you are is enough. Come, I'm happy to have you here. I feel the joy of having you here in my presence. And it's kind of a quiet interaction. It's something that doesn't happen with a lot of bells and whistles. It's a soft moment, usually. I was trying to think of a good movie that encapsulated some of these ideas. And the one that I came to is the role that Robert De Niro plays in a movie called The Intern. And the movie itself has some mixed reviews, and you may not have liked the movie, and that's okay. It's not that the movie was good or bad. It's that this character that Robert De Niro is depicting is the kind of leader that gives that soft invitation. He came to this job working with the actresses Anne Hathaway. He came to this job as a senior intern with lots of experience, lots of years, and not a lot to prove for himself. He just was bored at home. He wasn't trying to make a name for himself. And she was trying to make a name for herself. And you might agree or disagree that she was doing a good job of making a name and building a business, but she was missing some things. And some of the things that she was missing were her soft feelings, her ability to be sad and just sorrow for some things that might be lost. And he came along, and you can watch as he creates a place for her to have those feelings. But he also does that for other people in the movie. It's like this instinct inside of him to see people, to see who they are and what's going on, to understand them, and to make a provision for them. And he even leads these young guys into maybe being a little bit more professional in what they're doing. It's a fun movie to watch, to see how does he lead without ever being the leader. He actually becomes the leader, but everybody else has leadership going on. I always think for these instincts to make the most sense to us, it's good to just start looking for them. Where are they in a movie or in a TV show or in a book, or watching maybe at somebody's home? If you're invited, who becomes the leader? How do they make decisions? And who are they serving with their decisions? And you can start to spot some of these dynamics going on. At the very beginning, I talked about how these instincts work together to lead and to lean like a dance. I was sharing this with a friend who actually had done thousands of hours of dancing, and they had several observations to give me. First of all, they said a bad follower really messes up any kind of leader. So a good follower is a great thing. And then secondly, a good follower makes a better leader. So when you're in that role of leaning and trusting, you're not being passive. You're actually in an active way. You're making sure that these instincts are working together. And the third thing is when you have two people who have similar level of maturity, in this case, dancing, that's when it really goes well. That's when things take off and it's exhilarating and life-giving. So when you're working through things in your relationships and you're figuring this out, it's worthwhile. You're going to get to a place where it works really well and gives you life. So today we followed up on those 3 instincts for connection. That we have an instinct to protect, an instinct to provide, and an instinct to recognize. And we all need those things. We need them given to us and we need to give them away. When they're used for the best decisions for the group, that's when they're used in the right way. When they're taken by one person and the decision is made to serve the person making the decision, that's when we know something is off, something's not right. But when we feel that the leader is making a decision and we know that it's providing for the group, we can rest into that, we can lean into it, and that's when good things happen. And one of those good things is that we can have our feelings. We can bring up what we're sad about. We can bring up what we're afraid of and work through those things. And that's why it's so important for us to actually make sure that we're using our instincts for the best of everybody and to catch ourselves when occasionally we all make a decision or move in a direction that is self-serving. So I hope that from today's look at instincts, you can get a better insight what you're seeing in your world around you, and that you might be able to say to yourself, oh, if I'm leading this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to protect and provide and acknowledge people and actually watch people lean in and get some rest. And you yourself, I hope, will get a great sense of satisfaction from what you have to offer. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.